There is something in the water with me right now. I can hear it breathing. And I cannot see the shore. Let me go back to where this begins, because the beginning matters. The beginning is where I made the choice that almost ended everything. And I want you to understand exactly how ordinary that choice felt at the time, because that is the part that haunts me the most. Not what was in the water, but how easily I walked into it. It is the middle of August. I am staying alone at my uncle's lake house in northern Minnesota, a place I have been coming to every summer since I was 7 years old. I know this lake the way I know my own neighborhood. I know where the drop-off begins, roughly 40 feet from the eastern dock. I know the shallow sandy shelf on the northern end, where you can walk out 60 feet and still only be waist deep. I know where the weeds are, where the rocks are, where the old sunken rowboat sits in 12 feet of water near the western bank. I have swum this lake in every season it allows swimming. I have swum it in rain. I have swum it alone more times than I can count. What I have never done before this night is swim it in complete darkness at 11:40, 5 p.m. after 3 glasses of bourbon on an empty stomach, in my defense. And I know this is not much of a defense. The heat is oppressive, 91 degrees at 11 p.m., which is not something that happens in northern Minnesota in August, not usually. But this summer has broken every record on the books. The house has a window unit that has been struggling for 3 days and is now actively failing, producing a lukewarm wheeze instead of cold air. I have been lying on top of my sheets for 2 hours trying to sleep and getting nowhere. The lake, which I can see from my bedroom window, looks like black glass in the moonlight. And I know from memory how that water feels, cold, clean, the particular coolness of a deep northern lake that the August sun barely touches below 10 feet. I tell myself I will go in for 5 minutes. Just cool off. Stay in the shallows near the dock, nothing reckless. 5 minutes and then back to bed. I do not bring a flashlight. I do not tell anyone I am going. There is no one to tell. I am alone at the house. I do not bring my phone. I am wearing swim trunks and a t-shirt and flip-flops, and I walk down the porch steps and across the grass to the dock, and I stand at the end of it and look at the water. The lake is still. Completely, perfectly still. There is a 3/4 moon, and it is reflecting off the surface in a long white corridor that runs from the dock almost to the far shore. I can see maybe 30 feet in either direction along the surface before the light gives out. Beyond that, the banks of the lake are dark tree line. I take off my shirt and my flip-flops and I dive in. The cold hits me like a physical force. 58 degrees. I check the thermometer on the dock post later, and that is the reading, 58 degrees, and after 91 degree air it is a shock that reaches all the way into my chest. I surface gasping and treading water, and for about 15 seconds everything is exactly what I told myself it would be. Relief, cold, the simple pleasure of a body being the right temperature again. I float on my back. The moon is directly above me, and I can see the stars at its edges. The water is black beneath me. The dock is about 20 feet away. I breathe and I float, and I feel the bourbon and the heat and the sleeplessness beginning to loosen their grip on my nervous system. At 11:51, I hear the first sound. I am floating on my back looking at the stars, and the sound is subtle enough that I am not immediately certain I have heard it. A displacement of water. Not a wave, not a fish breaking the surface, not the mechanical slap of water against the dock. A displacement. A controlled movement of water. The kind of movement produced by something with weight and intention moving through it. The sound comes from the north end of the lake. In the dark, in the direction of the shallow sandy shelf where I spent entire childhood afternoons standing waist, deep looking for crayfish. I right myself in the water and tread. I look north. The moonlight corridor runs roughly east to west, so the north end of the lake is in shadow. I can see the tree line as a black mass against a slightly less black sky. I can see nothing on the water. I tell myself it is a deer, white-tailed deer swim. People do not know this. Deer are excellent swimmers, and they cross water bodies regularly at night. The lake is maybe 400 meters across at its widest, and I have seen deer at the water's edge a dozen times. I tell myself it is a deer. I begin swimming slowly back toward the dock. Not urgently, not panicked, just in the direction of the dock, at a steady pace, head up, watching the water around me. The second sound stops me completely. It is not a sound, actually. That is the wrong word for it. It is a sensation, a pressure change in the water near my feet. Not contact, nothing touches me. But something displaces the water near my feet below me in a way that registers on my skin like proximity. Like the water being pushed aside by something close and moving. I put my face in the water and open my eyes. I know this was instinct. I know it was not logical, because opening your eyes in Black Lake water at midnight tells you nothing. You cannot see in that darkness. The lake swallows light completely past 4 feet. There is simply nothing to see. I know this. I put my face in the water anyway, and what I see is nothing, which is worse than seeing something, because nothing means I cannot tell how close it is. I swim for the dock. Now I am urgent. Now I am not thinking about being rational or calm or measured. I am swimming with my face down and my arms pulling hard and my feet kicking, and I am watching the darkness beneath the surface. The way you watch a dark room you have to walk through, scanning for the shape that will resolve itself out of nothing. I am 10 feet from the dock when something touches my ankle. Not a brush, not a graze. A touch, a brief, deliberate, encircling touch, the way a hand closes around an ankle. It releases immediately. In less than half a second it is gone. I do not feel fingernails or fingers or a palm. I feel pressure, circular pressure, around the bone of my ankle, and then nothing. I do not remember the last 10 feet. My next clear memory is sitting on the dock with my legs pulled up to my chest, my back against the dock post, looking at the water. My hands are shaking. My whole body is shaking in a way that has nothing to do with the cold. I am staring at the exact spot of water where my ankle was just touched, and the surface is perfectly still, and there is nothing there. I sit on that dock for 40 minutes. I do not go back inside until I have watched the water for 40 minutes and seen nothing. And in those 40 minutes, I hear 2 more sounds. One at minute 11, that displacement sound again, from much closer, the north end of the shallow area just off the dock. One at minute 34. A sound I have no framework for, a low sound, below the surface, almost below the threshold of hearing. The way sound travels through water sometimes, conducted up through the dock boards into my hands and legs. Both times I see nothing on the surface. I go inside. I lock the door. I do not sleep. In the morning I call my uncle. I ask him, trying to keep my voice level, whether anything unusual has ever happened in the lake. Whether there has ever been anything unusual reported on that lake. There is a silence on the line that goes on for several seconds, longer than it should. He tells me there is a reason the family stopped doing night swims in that lake after what happened in 1987. He starts to explain what happened in 1987. I stop him. I tell him I will call him back. I have not called him back. That was 14 months ago, and I have not called him back, because I know myself well enough to know that there are answers that do not make you safer. They only make you more afraid. And I am already afraid enough. I am already at the dock in my mind every single night, sitting with my knees to my chest, watching the perfectly still surface of black water, waiting for it to move. Story number 2. He knows what I had for breakfast. He knows what shirt I put on first this morning, and then changed out of. He knows what I said out loud to myself in my car at 7:40 a.m. when I was alone on my driveway, and no one was within 300 feet of me. And he is smiling. I need you to sit with this for a moment before I tell you how we got here. A stranger is standing at the side of a back road in rural Kentucky at 9:15 in the morning, having flagged down my truck, and he is describing my morning to me with the casual confidence of someone reading from a document. And I am sitting in the cab of my truck, trying to find a single rational explanation for what is happening. I do not find one. That is the conclusion. There is no rational explanation for how this man knows what he knows. Here is the beginning. I am a field service technician for an agricultural equipment company. I drive a service route through a 4-county area in central Kentucky. Farm equipment repairs, maintenance calls, warranty service. I am on the road by 7:30 most mornings, and I cover somewhere between 100 and 150 miles a day on a mix of state roads and county back roads. I know these roads extremely well. I have driven this territory for 6 years. I know which county roads flood after heavy rain, which farms have dogs that come to the gate, which stretches of back road are pure dead zone for cell signal. On this particular Tuesday in October, I leave my house at 7:35. I pour my coffee into a travel mug, the blue one, not the gray one, which matters because I grab the gray one first and then switch. I am wearing a green flannel over a white thermal. I was wearing a red flannel first, for about 40 seconds, and then I decided it was too warm and switched to the green. In my driveway alone, before pulling out, I say out loud to myself, the way you do when you are alone in a car and thinking through your day. I say, out loud, that I need to remember to stop at the hardware store in Campbellsville before they close. It is a specific, mundane, utterly private thing to say. I say it because I have been forgetting this particular errand for 3 days. I say it to the windshield of my truck in my empty driveway at approximately 7:40 a.m. At 9:15 I am on County Road 441, a 2-lane through farmland that I travel every Tuesday. The road is flat and straight with soybean fields on both sides and a tree line about a quarter-mile east. No houses visible from the road at this stretch. No driveways, no mailboxes, no pullouts. Just open farmland and the road. A man is standing on the right shoulder. He is waving. Not the casual wave of someone being friendly. The active, arm overhead wave of someone who needs you to stop. I stop. I stop because that is what you do when someone is waving you down on a rural road. Because it is the middle of the morning, and this is farm country and people have breakdowns and flat tires and medical situations, and the social contract of rural roads is that you stop. I stop. I put the truck in park and I roll down my window. He is in his 50s, I think. Hard to be more precise. He is one of those people whose age is difficult to read, somewhere in a range rather than at a specific point. Medium height. Heavy canvas work jacket, dark brown. Work boots, well worn. No hat. No visible injury. No broken down vehicle anywhere near him. I look up and down the road in both directions, and there is nothing. No car on the shoulder. No tractor in the ditch. Nothing. He is simply standing on the side of County Road 441 with no vehicle and no visible reason to be there. He walks to my window. He stops about 2 feet back from the door. Not close enough to reach in. Not close enough to make the interaction feel like a threat. He stands there, and he looks at me with an expression I have trouble naming even now. Not aggressive, not distressed. A kind of neutral assessment, like someone evaluating a thing they already understand. He says good morning. He says he is sorry to trouble me. He says he wonders if I might answer a question for him. I say sure. Because what else do you say? He says the blue mug you are drinking from. That is the one you switched to this morning, correct? After you put the other one back. I hear this sentence. I process it. I look down at my blue travel mug sitting in the cup-holder. I look back at him. My mouth is open. I do not say anything for several seconds because my brain is busy doing an emergency audit of the last 2 hours of my life, trying to identify any moment when a stranger could have been present to observe me in my kitchen switching travel mugs, and finding nothing, finding 0 moments, finding that the sequence of events in my kitchen this morning was witnessed only by me. I say, and I am almost ashamed of how small my voice is when I say it. How do you know that? He does not answer the question. He says green flannel this morning. Also a change. I reach for my door handle. I do not know why. I do not know if I am going to get out or if my hand is simply doing something autonomously. He takes 1 small step back, not alarmed, measured, like he anticipated the movement. He holds up 1 hand, palm out. Calm, patient. He says he is not here to cause me any concern. He says he has a question he needs me to help him with. He says, do you remember, this morning, what you said in your driveway? Something about a hardware store. I want to be very honest with you about what happens to me in this moment. I have never in my life experienced the specific sensation I experience in the cab of my truck on County Road 441 at 9:17 a.m. when this man says those words. It is not fear exactly, not in the way fear usually presents. It is a wholesale revision of reality. The sensation of the ground beneath you being replaced with something that looks identical, but is made of an entirely different material that you do not have a name for. Everything looks the same and nothing is the same. I say nothing. I cannot say anything. He says Campbellsville. Before they close. That is what you said. I start the truck moving. I am not proud of this. I pull back onto the road and I drive away from him, and I do not look in my rearview mirror for a full quarter mile, because I am frightened of what I will see. When I finally look, the road behind me is empty. He is not there. There is no figure visible anywhere on the road or in the fields on either side. He has not been found. I filed a report with the county sheriff's office that afternoon. I gave the description I have given you. I gave the exact location. A deputy drove the area. Found nothing. No person, no vehicle, no evidence of any presence on that stretch of 441. The deputy's manner during our conversation was professional and polite, and I could tell he thought I was either drunk or having some kind of episode, and I could not entirely blame him, because the story sounds exactly like the story of someone who is drunk or having an episode. Except I have never been more sober in my life than I was on County Road 441 at 9:15 in the morning. I have gone over every alternative explanation I can construct. A neighbor observed me through a window. I have checked. There is no sightline to my kitchen from any neighboring house. A camera or listening device in my home. I have had my house swept professionally twice. Someone who has been following me and could have observed me on my driveway through a long lens. I cannot completely rule this out, but my driveway is enclosed on 3 sides, and hearing audio from that distance with clarity specific enough to reproduce individual words would require equipment I would characterize as extraordinary. The last explanation I have left is the one I cannot say out loud to most people. That there are things in the world that know us from the outside in, that observe us not through cameras or windows, but through some mechanism I have no language for. That stand on the side of roads and flag down trucks, and ask their questions and step back exactly 2 feet when you reach for your door handle. That have been watching us. All of us. With that flat, patient expression of something that already understands what it is looking at. I still drive County Road 441 every Tuesday. I do not know why I tell myself it is my route. I tell myself I am not afraid. But I have not once, in 16 months, said anything out loud to myself in my driveway before I leave. Just in case. Story number 3. I am at the top of the cliff, 400 feet above the valley floor, at 2 in the morning, and there is a hot meal on the ground in front of me. Set for 1. As though someone knew I was coming. I need you to understand exactly how impossible this is before I take you through it step by step. Because the geography of what I am describing does not allow for reasonable explanations. And I want you to feel the specific weight of that impossibility the way I felt it, standing at the top of El Diablo Ridge with chalk on my hands and a headlamp on my head, and a bowl of food steaming in the cold night air in front of me. I have been climbing for 9 years. I do technical routes, multi-pitch, sport and trad, some aid climbing when the project calls for it. I am not a reckless climber. I do things that some people would call reckless, like night climbing, but within the culture and practice of climbing, night ascents are legitimate and increasingly common for certain route types. The temperature is lower, the rock is better. Certain granite faces that are agony in afternoon heat become entirely manageable after sunset. You manage it with quality lighting and a partner who knows the route. On this night, I am climbing alone. My partner canceled. A recurring theme in my life, it seems, and I made the decision to solo a route I have done 4 times before. A moderate 5-10 crack system on the north face of El Diablo Ridge in the Organ Mountains of New Mexico. I know this route well enough to climb it in my sleep. I have done it in the dark once before, 2 years ago with a partner, and the upper pitches are straightforward. A long finger crack to a ledge, a short traverse, and then a low angle slab walk to the summit plateau. I start at 11 p.m. The conditions are good, 53 degrees, no wind, a half moon. My headlamp is a Black Diamond Spot 400, fully charged, and I have a backup lamp clipped to my harness. I move efficiently. This is a route I trust and a rock I know. By midnight 45, I am leading the final pitch, 60 feet of low, angle slab that requires more balance than technique, and I can see the star field above the lip of the ridge where the rock ends and the sky begins. I top out at 1:58 a.m. The summit plateau of El Diablo Ridge is not a peak in the dramatic sense. It is a flat area of weathered granite and desert scrub roughly the size of a tennis court, bounded on the south by the cliff edge and on the north by a gradual talus slope that descends into a canyon. It is accessible from the north via that talus slope, a rough but walkable approach that most hikers use to reach the summit from the trailhead. The trailhead is 4.5 miles away. The trail gains about 1,500 feet of elevation and is rated as strenuous. At 2 in the morning, the trail would be dark, unmarked, and completely unlit. The fire is on the north end of the plateau. I see it the moment I clear the lip. A small, careful fire built in a ring of stones, burning steadily with the contained geometry of a fire that has been deliberately managed. Not a wildfire, not an accident. A campfire, built by someone who knows how to build campfires, with a good coal bed and clean, burning wood arranged to minimize smoke. Next to the fire, on a flat piece of granite, there is a small camping pot. And next to the pot there is a bowl, a metal camping bowl, the collapsible kind, filled with food. Steam is rising from the bowl in the cold night air. I stand at the edge of the plateau with my hands still chalked and my rope still coiled over my shoulder, and I look at this scene for approximately 30 seconds. My brain is running through explanations the way it has to when it encounters something that doesn't fit. Someone camped here overnight. This is their breakfast. But it is 2 in the morning, not 6 in the morning, and no sleeping bag or tent is visible. Someone hiked up the trail and is somewhere on the plateau. But I can see the entire plateau from where I am standing, and there is no one here. Someone left recently and the food is still hot, but a 4.5 mile technical trail descent in the dark at 2 in the morning is not something you do accidentally or casually. I approach the fire carefully. My headlamp cuts the darkness between me and the bowl of food, and I can see clearly that the steam rising from it is consistent with something that has been recently cooked and is still very hot. I can smell it, a soup or stew of some kind savory, with onion and something else I cannot immediately place. I crouch and I hold my hand 6 inches above the bowl, and the heat is immediate and unmistakable. This has not been sitting here for longer than 15 minutes, at most. There is one bowl, one set of utensils, a spoon laid next to the bowl carefully, deliberately. One bowl, one spoon, set for one. I stand and I sweep my headlamp in a full 360 degrees across the plateau. The granite surface, the scrub, the talus field to the north beginning its descent into the canyon, the cliff edge to the south where I came up, the sky above. There is no one here, I call out. I call hello twice, loudly enough to carry across the plateau and echo off the talus. Nothing comes back. The mountains absorb my voice and return silence. I check the north edge of the plateau where the talus descent begins. I point my headlamp down the slope. The talus is unstable, loose rock over larger boulders, and any movement on it produces sound. The clatter of disturbed stones is the acoustic signature of that descent, and it carries clearly in still mountain air. I hear nothing. The canyon below me is silent. I check the fire. The coals are hot and deep. This fire has been burning for at least 2 hours. Whoever built it has been here for at least 2 hours. The pot next to the bowl still has liquid in it, still hot. I do not touch the bowl or the spoon or the pot. Something prevents me from touching them that is not rational. It is more primitive than rational. An instinct I have learned over 9 years of being in wild places to take seriously. The animal intelligence that lives below the thinking brain, and sometimes knows things the thinking brain is still working out. I set up 15 feet back from the fire with my back against a boulder, and I sit, and I watch the plateau for 40 minutes. I do not see a person. I do not hear movement. The fire burns steadily for 20 minutes and then begins to die down, and by the time I am ready to begin my descent, it has reduced itself to orange coals. The bowl of food is still there when I leave. I do not touch it. 4.5 miles and about 2 hours later, I am back at the trailhead. My truck is the only vehicle in the dirt lot. It is the only vehicle I saw in the 2-mile access road driving in. No car, no truck, no motorcycle, nothing. I need you to sit with the geometry of this. El Diablo Ridge at 2 in the morning. 4.5 miles of strenuous dark trail from the trailhead. No vehicle at the trailhead or on the access road. A fire burning for 2 hours. Hot food recently cooked. Set for one person. The plateau empty. The descent route silent. There is no version of these facts that produces a comfortable answer. I have spoken to 3 people since that night who climb in the Organs regularly. I described the location, the time, the scene. 2 of them did not say much. The third one, a woman who has been climbing in New Mexico for 25 years, asked me which fire ring it was in. I described the position. North end of the plateau, maybe 30 feet from where the talus descent starts. She was quiet for a moment, and then she said, "That ring has been there for a long time." She said people have been finding fires in that ring for as long as she can remember climbing in the Organs. She said she had personally found a fire there once, years ago, late at night after an unexpected bivouac. I asked her if she had ever found food. She looked at me for a long time. She said mine was set for one too. I still climb El Diablo. I still do the North Face route, though I have not done it as a night solo again. I go with a partner now. I tell myself it is better practice, better safety, that solo night climbing was always a risk I should have managed differently. I tell myself that is why. But the truth is I know what I will find if I top out alone at 2 in the morning. Hot food. Steam rising in the cold mountain air. Set for one. And I am not sure what happens if I sit down and eat it.